You're listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. I am your host, Al Mega, CEO of Comic Crusaders and Undercover Capes. In this show, I'm sitting down with creators from all walks of life to talk about inspiration, process, the lessons they've learned, and a whole lot more. Ladies, gents, creators, dreamers, and almighty Comic Crusaders, buckle up, porque today we got a beast in the building. This man bends genres like he's making balloon animals out of timelines. All right? Let me tell you, he's the mastermind who brought us NBC's Siberia, the visionary behind Emerald City. And the dude, he said, what if ancient Greeks had access to military-grade upgrades? And boom, created the sci-fi thunderclap known as Outer Lands. He teamed up with the legendary Davide G. I'll ask him for pronunciation later. Got a cover by an icon, Jock, and delivered a story so wild, so bold, so brain-melting that it should come with a seatbelt and a snack pack. So he's here to talk conspiracies, post-apocalyptic curveballs, hoplites with assault rifles, and the bigger question: are we running toward the future or sprinting away from it? Crusaders Universe, make some noise, raise them comics high, and welcome the visionary, the world builder, the narrative ninja himself, Matthew Arnold. Welcome to the show, brother. How you doing today?
Man, that's a hell of an introduction. I feel like I'm ready to jump into a boxing ring and get ready.
Oh, let's get it. You want to be the world champ once again, raising them up high. Ain't nobody being, man.
I love it, man.
You want to make it done, get it done. So welcome. Thank you for taking some time, the legend in the building, for hanging out. I mean, you know, and talking about this dope book, your career, everything. Guys, we're about to geek out over here, right? So make sure, listen, you put up them comments. Don't you dare be shy. Not in this one. Come on, all right? So let's get into, I always love me my good origin story first. My geek origin story. So, Matt, be honest with us here. Where you OG from? And the most important question of your life: what is the first thing in all of fandom that you ever fell in love with?
Well, are you talking just about comic books, or are you talking about
just the first thing that got you into, you know, fandom in general, and then you got, you know, it was the gateway drug.
Well, the gateway drug is not that unique. It was a Star Wars universe. And when I was a kid, you know, first time I saw Luke Skywalker like use his hand to pull a lightsaber into it, I would go home at night, concentrate on things on the kitchen counter. I think if I could just concentrate hard enough.
Anything ever move?
It's going to happen. I just knew it was going to happen. I knew I had.
Anything ever move, though? Did anything ever move?
I thought it did at one point, but I wonder if that was just my mom kicking the table or something to help me out.
Stop it.
So yeah, no, I think it was that. It was interesting that it was a sci-fi world that was so appealing to me, but it really launched all of that. I mean, I was the kind of kid that was in movie theaters, you know, watching the movies 8-9 times, going by myself to the movies, being dropped off just because I loved them so much. My mom was the one that really introduced me to movies. She'd make me watch all the classics, the Casablancas. Yeah, she would sometimes she'd get bored and take me out of school just to watch movies with her. So,
no way. Oh,
yeah.
Man,
so she got me my first film education, and I started to see things that I never saw before. You know, these old classic movies, and she'd tell me why they were cool, and I started seeing the artistry of that, and kind of gave me my filmic history. And so I think when we got a video camera when I was about 16 years old, that's when it took off. I was like, okay, now I can make my own movies. And from then on, I was just hooked. I was just making movies, writing stories.
Wait, but when you say you made movies, did you have family that you were rocking with and making the movies with, or just you by yourself and toys, for example?
Well, here's a funny thing. So I found a set of photos that I had made when I was like 6, and I just used a still frame camera, and I had a dinosaur coming, and I knew how to make like a stop motion. I just had sort of figured out taking a series of photos, having him come closer, having him crush a car, and I would just lay them all out on the table and watch the little movie there. And that was like 5-6 years old. I was doing that. But then when I got into high school, I had a bunch of my high school buddies, and I would just rope them into these I'm like, we're making a Batman spoof. Show up at my house on this day, and you're the cameraman. I'm directing it. I wrote the script, and I'm in class trying to study, but I'm writing scripts, instead of doing my homework. And I think it just sort of happened just because I loved stories so much and movies, and it was just a way for me to communicate that. And I would just have a ton of friends. We have all these old movies sitting on a shelf somewhere that we made in our crazy haze of our teenage years. And that was all I wanted to do.
That's great. All right. So how did that lead into your greater journey yet then? How did you take those forward steps? What was the day you said, shit, I love this too much for me not to do it professionally. I got to do this.
Okay. So it's funny because I never knew it was a career. I got to be honest with you. So
right.
I went to school. I went to college. After high school, I went to college and I studied physics and philosophical metaphysics. So
what? All right.
I was
nerding out on some nerd
pretty hard. Yeah, I was into science, and I had a science background from my dad, and I thought I was going to be a scientist. But I was always, again, just doing stuff on the side. I was in drama plays. I was shooting stuff. I used the school cameras that they shot the football games with to see if I could borrow them to make movies with my buddies at college too. And then one summer, I took a summer production workshop at USC in California, and I saw this great stuff going on, and I thought, oh wait, this is a job, like this is a career, like there's people called directors and screenwriters, and I can do this and I can get paid for it. And so after I got out of college, I remember I went home to my parents' house in Kentucky. I was cutting grass with like a scythe blade in the yard, and it was hot. And I was like, what the hell am I doing? And I just walked in the house and I said, I'm moving to California next week. You're not going to stop me. I'm selling my car and I'm moving. And they're like, you're really going to do this? I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to go. And I didn't know anybody there at the time in LA. I had a friend whose sister was dating a guy. It was one of those stories. And I lived in these guys' kitchen. And I just said, that's it. I'm just doing it.
Kitchen.
I lived in their kitchen. I took 3 cardboard boxes and I made like one box was for like shorts and pants. One was for shirts and socks and underwear. And
I live like
had
that.
A lamp on it. That was it, man.
I live like that with my mom. I basically my living room was my office and my bedroom and their living room. I mean, it's like,
man, you just want to do it. You just want to do it, And I'm 21 years old. I don't got nothing to lose. I just get out there and do it. And I started looking for jobs. Couldn't figure out how to get a job in Los Angeles. Tried interning, and I did the craziest thing. I loved Tarantino. I was a huge Tarantino fan, like everybody in the world that wanted to make movies. And I just showed up at his office one day and just told him I want to work here. And yeah, believe it or not, they had lost an intern, and I ended up working as an intern for Tarantino, and I ended up working on Jackie Brown.
Everything.
As a set PA, I was working on Jackie Brown. I got to watch the master direct. I would.
You got to see Pam Grier. Tell me you got.
I got to meet Pam. Pam was awesome. I got to chat with Pam and have drinks with all the crew. Like, the cool thing about Quentin was that when he would shoot, he wasn't one of these directors that like had to run off and be all fancy. Like, what he liked to do at the end of the week is he'd take all the crew and cast out for drinks at the end of the week. And so we'd all hang out, all the stars, all the crew members, the gaffers, the grips, people like me that were just lowest on the totem pole. And we just could hang out. And we just me and the other PAs, we just try to get Quentin drunk. And then we just pepper him with questions. It was like free film school. It's like, what do you do this? How do you choose this lens? What do you do if you get this situation? How do you? And we would just ask him questions all night. And it was like, he loved it. He would love talking about his favorite thing to talk about. So we were in heaven. We just asked him questions and we just learned film. And it's the greatest experience you could have, getting close to whoever you most respected in the career you want, and get them to just give you free knowledge. So yeah, that was the best. And then from that, I'd applied to film school, and I got into film school at USC. And so I started making my own short films there. And then I just somehow spun that off into a career,
Well, look at my man just murdering the game. So, but what was the moment now when because here you say you're doing film, but you're telling me you were a geek. And
Yeah.
not, and I know we have comics. Again, this is Comic Crusader. Of course, my man is doing some comics, writing some stuff. So, but I was kind of the earliest moment and storytelling for yourself. You say, you know what? Maybe I'm not wired like everyone else, and I think I also want to do a comic book.
Okay, well, here you go.
Let's
Okay,
do this madness, because
okay,
I'll
I'll get it.
do this madness. But now you're gonna go to the comic book world, baby. Oh man, crazy man. You
Okay,
crazy.
so that's a circuitous journey, but I'll give it to you because I think you're interested in like development and arcs, and I think
Of
your audience
course.
will know how people get to certain places. And the wonderful thing about this career is everybody's got a different path. It's not like being a lawyer. You go to law school and then you get picked up by a firm. And that's how you do it. Everybody's got these crazy paths. So my crazy path was, I did a film at film school that was really well respected. It was a short film that I wrote and directed, but I didn't know how to write a script. And I didn't really know professionally how to do it. And I would go to these meetings. They're like, what do you got to do next? I'm like, I don't know. What do you want me to direct? And they're like, no, you gotta come up with something. And I had this friend who found me, took me to a comic book store, and we found Guy Davis's Marquee, which was a really cool comic book. And I thought, this is awesome. And so I contacted him, wrote him like a letter, email, and said, hey, I'd love to adapt this because it's a cool idea for a movie. And I didn't know anything about it. But he said, look, I already sold the rights to Sony and this production company called Circle of Confusion. Circle of Confusion did Walking Dead years later. And I said, oh, okay. Most people would think, oh, I guess that's a no. I said, oh, okay, I'll just call them. So I called Circle of Confusion and I said, I have a take on the comic book, The Marquee. Can I come in and talk to you guys about it? And they're like, yeah, sure. And so I went in to meet. I thought this is the easiest thing in the world, right? So I go in and pitch these guys, all these executives sitting around this table, and I'm telling them, here's what I think this story's missing, and here's the love story, and I think there's this cool twist at the end if you do this and that. And I pitch, and they're like, this is great. And they're all sitting staring at me. And one of the guys of the three principals of this production company has to walk out. And he's like, hey, I got to leave. I got to go to another meeting. And he said, Matt, I'm sorry. I would normally say this behind your back after you leave to these guys, but I got to go. So I'll just say in front of them, I think this guy's a genius. I think we should make this movie. I think he's the next Bryan Singer. I think we should work with him. And he walked out. And I'm like, whoa, I'm on cloud nine, right? This is the greatest thing. So then here's the story gets funny in a minute. So then these guys go, okay, look, I think we're sold on you. So look, have your agents reach out to us. And a lot of us here are already big fans of yours. So we're just excited to have our chance to work with you. Now, I just got out of film school. I didn't have an agent. I didn't have anything for people to be fans of. Oof. And I said that to them, and I saw their faces shift, and I realized they mixed me up with some other guy with a similar name that had like a huge resume and was like some big writer, director. Oh. And I saw them scrambling, asking, what, Matt Arnold? This guy's name is Matt. Oh, okay, all right. And they're like, oh, sorry. And they're walking me out of the room, and they're saying things like, look, good luck, and I hope things work out for you, and like keep in touch. And I was like, I just lost this job, right? Yeah. So the door is closing on me, and I say to these guys, look, let me just write you the first 20 pages. And they're like, yeah, all right, kid. And they close the door. And so I went home. I thought, I'm not giving up. I wrote 20 pages in like 2 weeks. I dropped it on their doorstep. And that afternoon, I got a call. I said, we love them. You're hired. So I was like, okay. So I just kind of kicked my way into that door. And they said, look, you don't have a manager? Because we also represent talent. I'm like, no, I don't. And they said, well, we'd like to represent you as a writer. We think that's great. I'm like, wow, that's crazy because I have no idea how to write a script. I just looked up, I read one of Quentin's scripts, and then I, looked at how he did it, and then I wrote my script, and I just kind of totally winged it. But they thought it was good enough that they wanted to represent me. And then I showed them my short film. I said, you direct too? We're going to rep you as a writer and a director. And do you have an agent? No, we're going to get you an agent, and we'll get you, an attorney. And so they, so then they hired me to sort of adapt this thing. And then I started just working like that. And it sort of just kind of came that way. And then I would tell them the things I was interested in. And I said, well, you need to find me a script. They said, Matt, you're as good a writer as any of the writers we represent. Why don't you just write your own scripts? And I said, but I'm not a writer. They said, yeah, you are a writer. I'm like, I am? They said, yeah. I thought I was a director, you know, because I went to film school for directing and I directed this cool short film. And I just wrote because nobody was giving me cool scripts to direct. So they said, no, you write your own stuff. And that's when I started writing. And now this brings me back to the marquee and my venture into comic books, because it's all connected. So then when the pandemic hits, my industry shut down. I had TV shows that I was getting ready to go. I'd already done, you know, Siberia. I'd already done Emerald City. I was getting ready to launch my next show. Everything shut down. I'm thinking, what am I going to do during the pandemic? I've got to do something because I can't sit around. But I was always fascinated by comic books and novels. And I thought, what I'm going to do during this pandemic shutdown is I'm going to write a comic book and I'm going to write a novel. And I thought, well, how the heck do I get into comics? Like, I don't even know anybody. And the only person I knew was this guy named Chip Mosier, who was the representative at Oni Press that represented that book, The Marquee. And so I call him out of the blue. I'm like, hey, Chip, look, I've always wanted to write a comic book. I want to do that. What can you tell me what to do? Like, what's my first step? He goes, well, you're in luck. I'm like the head of development at Comixology, which is a really big comic book publisher. And we look for good comic book ideas and people to write them. And why don't you tell me your idea? And he said, write it into one page. And I'm like, okay. And so I wrote this one page and I sent it to him and he called me. He goes, Matt, this is like the best one page I've ever read. It's like awesome. He goes, this one page is going to like, my boss is going to be blown away. It's so great. I'm like, really? It's just a one page synopsis. Be like, but it's a really good idea. And this was the idea for the comic book Eden. So, which is a book that I developed with them a few years ago. And it's actually now in development at Fox as a TV show. He said, I love this. He said, I'm going to do your book. So he got me in touch with Will Dennis, who's a fantastic editor. And he got me, you know, a great comic book artist in Riccardo Bertarelli, and we made the book Eden. So that launched me in my first foray into comic books. And I loved the experience so much that I had this wild idea for Outer Lands. It's an idea that I'd had for years. I was trying to figure out how to do it. Am I going to make this as a movie? Am I going to make it as a TV show? Am I going to write it as a novel? But because it's such a visual world, it's such a visual idea, I said, you know what? This needs to be another comic book. And so I called up my new friends now at Comixology, and I called up Will Dennis, and I said, look, I want to do another book. Here's the idea. And I pitched over Comixology and said, we'd love to do another book with you. So that leads us right into Outer Lands. So yeah, circuitous journey through the realms of film and television by way of Tarantino, film school, and then a crazy comic book I pulled off a shelf with a buddy of mine, to where we are now doing cool comic books. It's
I love it. I love it. Look, you hear this story, you see, folks. But what's something I learned here is consistency, folks. Believe in yourself. There is no such thing as no. My man said he was gonna do something. He didn't. He landed it because he was persistent and consistent. He did his thing, yo. Salute to that, Matt, for real. That's awesome. That's inspiring. I mean, again, you know, I tell people this, and listen, the worst people could say is no, right? Until they say yes, which they will eventually.
Well, you'll be surprised by a lot of people really get stopped by that word no. They think it actually means no.
Yeah.
It actually
no means the end.
It means your dream is not possible. I think it means, oh, you don't understand it. I'll go to the other person. Or you are closing the door, but I'm going to go through the other way. Like, it's never a no to me. And that persistence is the key thing you need, I think, if you're going to have a creative career. A lot of people are creative and like doing artistic ventures. But if you're going to make it a career, I think persistence is like probably equal to talent in terms of the skill set you need to be able to succeed, because you're going to get no all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. You're like 99% no. If you're not comfortable with 99% no, you can't make a career out of it. You got to just be used to people telling you no, and me just saying, well, I disagree. I think it's really cool. I'm going to make it. I'm just going to not make it with you, I guess. I'll make it over here. You know?
You're missing out. Exactly. That's the attitude to have. I love it. Now let's get it, because we're talking Outer Lands. Folks, don't worry. I'm gonna tease you. I got pages and all over here, preview pages for you to check out, because Outer Lands is nostalgia versus technology, which is a big theme, right? So tell me, what's one piece of old school tech you wish you could bring back permanently?
Old school technology?
Yeah.
It'd nice to have a phone that was just a phone.
He wants his old Motorola brick phone that came with the
That's all it
suitcase
is.
battery. I just want a phone, man.
I
For real.
liked, I liked the idea of people not being able to reach me at all times or expect that they could. It used to be back in the day, you'd get a phone call, and if you weren't there, you weren't there.
That's it.
There's a message, you got to come home and check it, and then maybe call them back. I mean, the world still ran, surprisingly, when people weren't instantaneously available to everyone else in the world at all times. And
The
I kind of
madness
like,
with beepers.
yeah. Oh, I'll tell you something funny. Okay, so when I was working on Jackie Brown, this was just the advent of the pager beeper technology that was everybody was so excited about. And you got to imagine, I was running a lot of times. I was running errands for them. I would have to drive around Los Angeles, okay, with a map in my hand, physical map, no GPS, a beeper, and a roll of quarters. And I'd get a beep, and I'd have to drive around until I found a payphone, try to find parking, put quarters in the meter to park, run to the payphone, dial the number, ask them what they needed. We need you to go to 6th and 12th and deliver a script to so and so. Okay, cool. Then I go back, go and get in my car, look it up on the map, find where it is, drive there, get a beep, pull up. I mean, it's insane. It sounds so insane right now. But at the time I thought to myself, this is cool. I got a beeper. I can reach them at all times and they can reach me. This is such cool technology.
Bro,
It's
and
insane to
now,
think.
you know what though? At least you know how to read a map, which means that folks, should the zombie apocalypse happen, Matthew Arnold knows how to read maps,
Yep.
and he has to roll the
That's true.
quarters.
That's right.
I dig it. I dig it. Now, no, for real. Now, talk to me about Outer Lands and the creation. I mean, you got my man Chip excited. You made him definitely fall off the block. And get Comixology on board. So talk to me. What is the story about? What was the brain moment that sparked that? Boom! I got to make this.
Well, I think it's a lot of things. I mean, I think right now there is a general worry about technology, specifically AI. What is it going to do to culture, to life? Is it going to answer all our dreams, or is it going to be this detrimental, awful thing? Or is it even going to be this like life, civilization ending technology? So there's a lot of fear about technology. And
Definitely
I
that's
think
what.
that naturally leads to like a sort of romanticization of nostalgia for nostalgic ideas. Um, One thing that was particularly inspirational was my time in Kentucky working with the Amish, and they were rebuilding our house. We had Amish workers rebuild our house, and I got to know one of the boys there, a teenage boy who was a builder, and got to know a little about his life. I got to go to his house, see how he lived, and I'd ask him questions about what it's like to be, an Amish kid. He had to make this big decision coming up when he was going to turn 16 about what was going to happen. And at 16, he had to decide either to remain in the community forever or to leave. And if he left, he could never come back because they didn't
Wow.
want to be infected by that technology. Can you imagine being 16 and thinking about your community and leaving forever and kind of being exiled? And I thought,
Yeah,
what a heavy decision.
that's
But I
crazy, man.
thought about his culture and just how beautiful it was in a certain way that it focused on things that we weren't as focused on. It wasn't about what was on TV. It wasn't the news. It wasn't being concerned with the labels that you're wearing or the watch that you've got or whatever.
Real.
It wasn't about those things. And there was something kind of romantically beautiful about that I always remembered. And so what Outer Lands is really about at its core, and I don't want to give away too many of the twists because this book definitely has a lot of big twists and turns, but it's about a culture that has found a way to reinvigorate the past and start their world over, and the
Mm.
consequences of that and what happens when it's invaded by new technology. And what I love about this particular book and why it was in my heart to write it for a long time is I love stories that seem to be one thing, and you tell a good story of what that is, but then you just pull the rug out and then you realize you're in a totally different world than you thought. You're like, oh, I did not know.
Yep.
And in this book,
That's the best
I did
storytelling.
not know that I'm in a science fiction, actually. It seems like a historical drama, but we're actually in a science fiction story. And to me,
Ooh,
that's a lot of fun to sort of suddenly change that for the reader and to keep them guessing and to let them know that they're in good hands, that this story is going to pay off. They're not going to just have a story that just whittles out and just dies. It's going to go somewhere. We're moving towards something. I'm going to surprise you. There's going to be twists and turns. There's things to expect. And for me, as a reader with a short attention span, I appreciate that in the stuff that I read, or that, cinema or movies or books or comic books, that I know that this person is not going to waste my time, that there is a payoff coming toward this story I'm investing my time in. And I always want to give that to readers. I value their time. I think you're giving me your money and your time. I'm not going to disappoint you, or I'm going to try not to disappoint you. It's for me to please you and to make you feel like it was worth it. And that's always my thought when I go into this thing, that I'm not going to write a book until I know that I've got enough of a story to keep you surprised, to make you turn the page, to make you feel rewarded at the end that it was worth your time and effort. That's the way I go about it.
Excellent. Excellent. So was there any particular character in Adolescence that you accidentally gave way too much power to and then immediately regretted it? Like, oh, shit.
No,
Damn,
I wouldn't say that.
that.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, that's partially because of the way I write. I don't write as I go. I usually do a lot of writing. Most of my writing day looks like this. And it's me just staring up at the ceiling, writing the whole thing in my head before I ever write it.
Somebody walks into the room and you're like, I'm on shift. I'm working.
Yeah, I'm definitely. A lot of people will be very confused because they think, aren't you supposed to be in here working? Believe me, I am, but I'm doing it in my head, and I pretty much write the whole story with some minor details left aside, but generally I got A, B, C, D, E. I see how it all arcs out in my head before I start writing, because I want to know where it's going. It's funny because I know Stephen King talks about writing the other way. He just starts with the premise and he lets the story take him. I'm sure that's a perfectly noble, fun way to write. It terrifies the shit out of me, to be honest with you, to think that I could just end up writing and it just disappears. Yeah. Now I've wasted hours and I realize I've written myself into a corner and there's nowhere for the story to go. So before I write, I got to know where it's going. I got to know what the destination is. And then typically I got to know what the characters' arcs are going to be and how they're going to change. So by the time I'm writing it, I'm not going to get caught in a question like that. I already kind of know who they are, where they're going, what they're going to do. And then I'm fine tuning. And the fun of the writing for me then is the words that are coming out of their mouth. What's the dialogue? What is their personality? What is their sense of humor? Because there's a lot of sense of humor in it too. Like the way these characters kind of banter. A lot of them are kind of funny, especially Celine. I think she's got a good sense of humor and she's fun. She throws the ball back pretty hard at Heron. And I think that's kind of interesting. And I think that kind of just comes out of who these characters speak to me as their personality,
Excellent. Now, what's the weirdest rabbit hole you fell into while maybe researching this book? Something you never thought you'd Google in your life?
Well, I tell you, trying to find out what the interior of a home for like an ancient Greek noble person and a peasant was pretty tough to figure out. There's surprisingly little information about some of those things because we don't have pictures. You know what I mean? We have to infer from the way they wrote some of those things. I mean, yeah, you can see what palaces might have looked like, because they might still be standing. But what does your typical everyday person's home look like? What's the furnishings? How much stuff do they have in the background of the room? What were they wearing on a day-to-day basis? Yeah. A lot of the knowledge that we have of those things comes from other people interpreting them, like other artists and movies. Like all your pictures that you have in your head of like ancient Greek and togas a lot of that's from what other people interpreted. But there's not a whole lot of really hard evidence. So I got in pretty hard into researching and reading and watching documentaries and looking up as much research I can and buying books on like ancient Greek culture and fashion and dress and just trying to make that as authentic as possible. And
what if they communicating that to the artists? What if they wore jeans and all and everything that they depicted was just a huge toga party event? That's all. Like that. They used to dress
who knows?
They had Timberlands back then too. You know what I mean? Who knows?
Well, my guys certainly do, but that's giving away a lot.
Let's get it. Let's get it, man. Let's start looking at this pretty book. And of course, your brilliant team. Because again,
Oh,
you're not doing this baby alone. And let me tell you, you have a squad on your hands, man. I talk about that promance and all. And a big salute to Blind Adam off the Source Radio. He's been tuning in. He feels that you've inspired him, you motivated him earlier, you made his day. So a big salute. You know what I mean? Giving one of our Crusaders out there some good energy.
yeah, man, for sure.
So,
Well,
Adam, pick up Autolands, the Comixology right now, right? Stop playing. That's what you need to do. All right. That's where you better be going.
So I want to talk about these people. So Davide Gianfelice is incredible artist. I mean, as you can see on the pages, he was so inspired with this book, and you can tell that when you work with a comic book artist, like how quickly they're turning these pages in, and how much detail and how much they're fighting for their ideas. You could tell he's having so much fun on the page. And we just had a great rapport. I was able to communicate to him, even though his English is not great. I'm able to communicate with him really well what the scenes are, what I'm seeing in my head for the shots, and his actualization of those is so much better than I had in my mind.
How did you guys meet?
What's that?
How did you guys meet? Was it through Comixology that Chip and the squad hooked you up?
No, it was through Will Dennis. Now, Will is the editor of this book. He's a world-renowned editor. I mean, everybody knows him. He's worked on some of the greatest books, and he knows everybody. And he had mentioned Davide Gianfelice to me on the first book. We picked Ricardo, who did an incredible job with that one. But I'd always thought about Davide because I'd seen his portfolio. I think he was busy at the time anyway. And I said to Will, I said, "You remember that other guy other Italian artist we were talking to? Let's take a look at him." And we just had a conversation. I sent him the pages, and he just really took to it. And I just was so pleased with the inks that were coming out. I would get these like inks, and I was like, man, it made my day to get like 6-7 of these in my Dropbox. I was like, my day. I would just relish. I was just like, we're just gonna go sit down and look at these, just look at these pictures and enjoy them. Then Luca Salsi was our colorist from Eden. Luca, I love Luca because he's got such a cinematic eye as well for color. A lot of comic book colorists don't do that. I find a lot of times that the colors can be often dull, or they're trying to do something maybe avant-garde with the colors, and that's all well and good. But for me, just coming from a cinematic background, I love the way he uses light. And you can see in here a lot of times like time of day and light streaming through trees and reflection
flares between the swords and that little pop of how the clang of the colors there looks so dope, like that fiery spark, and it came out beautiful, with the coloring, not just the art. I mean,
I think it really is a testament to how great Davide draws his pictures, and Luca kind of lets them sort of come alive with those colors, so you really feel the sense of place. And then and then my letterer, Ed Dukeshire, does just a great job of like finding where, like, I don't know how in the world he finds the place to write all my crazy words without taking over these pictures.
And what a perfect page to showcase, because look how many words on this, but look how beautifully placed they are, without disturbing the art.
Yep, absolutely. And he's good at capturing those moments. And again, like I always say in these interviews, I don't know how he doesn't fly over here from he's in Massachusetts too, and come over here and just beat me over the head for how many changes I put him through. I mean, he well deserves to come over here and knock on my door and be like, all right, that's enough. I have had it with the changes. But he does. He humors me. And it's been a great experience working with this team. The biggest part of it, I think, when you have a great team, is that they love the project. It's hard to rally a team if they feel like they don't love it, but I could tell they all did, and they all had their own takes on it, like creatively and emotionally. They found a way to spread their wings on it. Yeah.
Look at that. When you saw this page of just what the city looked like, I mean, you must have blown your mind. It blew my mind. I mean, this is your baby. I can't imagine how you felt.
No, it was fantastic. I mean, seeing these things come alive like that is fantastic. And just look at all the detail, all these houses he had to draw, and the sense of it, and the sense that it definitely is an ancient city, but it has a little bit of that strange modernity in it too. The way people, create their cities on top of each other, and just the beauty of that sunset. I mean, it's just gorgeous. And every frame was like that for me. It was like every picture was just their own little beautiful masterpiece. It's hard to pick a favorite shot. I lucked out. I mean, these guys are just great, just great.
Yeah, folks, the link is right there below, right? So please just make sure you guys pick that up like ASAP. How dare you guys not pick it up as yet? But
And I
you
will
guys,
say, and Jeff at Comixology and Pamela are the two that are now championing it after it's done. And Jeff was wise enough to allow me another seat at the table here at Comixology, and said he's going to make the book. And Pamela's been our person, sort of like arranging all these interviews and getting it done. And I can tell
Pamela's
too they
awesome.
love it. They love it. They love the book. They're excited about it, and it must be fun for them to have so many cool books to get to play around with. But knowing that they actually do love it and they support it and they care about it is a big part of why I like working with Comixology. It's like I can feel it's not just a business to them. They love what they do, and they care about their projects, and they're excited about them. And yeah,
Oh, they do. Pamela hits me up every month. Oh, I'm so excited. Yeah, look who got projects here. And a lot of the creators already know me, and they love want to talk. And of course, they love their projects like you. And folks, you see that barcode up in the corner. All right. I promise you, it does not lead you to me pictures. That goes right to Comixology, where you could buy the book right now. All right. Go ahead
yeah.
and scan that on your screens right now. Take you straight over to Comixology. Pong pong. Get it ready for you. I mean, we're in the holidays, folks. So you want to gift the nerd in your life something dope. This is it. This is it. Telling you, you're gonna enjoy this. All right. Now, were there any rules? Because again, you wrote for TV, obviously film, right, and not doing comics. Is there any particular TV rule that you love breaking? Within comics.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, the funny thing is the comics writing is such a different art than the film writing. I thought it was going to be very similar, but it's very different. Um, when you're writing film and television, the descriptions of place and actions have to be very small, very short, very succinct. You say, a house. That's a perfectly rational
All right.
description for a house in a script. But here I get to really play with. I get to describe it. I get to talk about the angles and the lighting and the color and the feel. And it lets me open up all the other senses, like the expressions on the characters' faces while they're talking and all that stuff. So for me, it was just reveling in almost directing those scenes. What comics also lets me do too is really an economy of language. You have to tell that story in so fewer words, and so what I'm doing is like really picking very succinct dialogue beats that really communicate exceptionally what the characters are feeling without like a long back and forth conversation. Characters talking back and forth in a scene. And so that for me was a little bit of the skill. In terms of breaking the rule, I think you have a lot more flexibility to break that kind of 3-act structure that's very common in film and television. But at the same time, I think there is something comforting about it that can work in comics as well, that you can take the characters and take the story on an arc and a beginning, middle, and end, and wrap it up in the way that you want to. So I kind of kept that from film and television, but I took the structure of the way that I would tell the story typically in the conversations, and try to find that I'm telling the story much more through action and through visual medium and what they're doing, not so much what they're saying. And I feel like a great comic book, you don't even need any dialogue. You could tell that story without dialogue and follow it. And I think that's got to be your overarching philosophy when you write a graphic novel or comic book. Is that, can I do it without the dialogue? Is a dialogue just a pepper, just a spice that will make this a little more interesting or a little more fun or give a little more extra insight into a character or their personality, but not use it to tell the story. And I think that's the other skill that's different, but also really fun about writing graphic novels.
There we go. Now, talking about that, because again, graphic novels with an S, you see that? You've built multiple worlds, right? Now, what's the worst world you'd never survive in, including your own creations?
Me?
Yeah.
Me?
You're not probably surviving none of
That's a
them.
good question, man. Last week was pretty rough. No, the world that I don't think I could survive in, I think just whatever world is the most mundane. I mean, I love that, the real world and the world of fiction is fraught with conflict and danger and change and all that stuff. I think too much safety is not a fun world to live in. I think you get bored to tears, and I think that I've had to remember this sometimes in my own life that even the most challenging times, the most painful times, the most scary times, the worst times, that's all the fun of being in the world. That's the challenge and fun of being a human being. And you can get really depressed and sad about it. And but you have to remember that this is what it's about. It's surviving those things and surviving those challenges, and not to
Yes.
get caught up in it as much as it is to realize that that is your story. And those things make for the exciting life story. Having just the mundane safe life that nothing ever happens to me is the worst story. And so you got to remember that in your own life. And I think that when I'm writing, I'm trying to think about the most extreme versions of those because that's what excites me. And I think that's what excites the human psyche is overcoming those
Yep.
things. So the worst world for me is the one that has no danger in it, I suppose.
All right, now let's talk. Let's do this now. If you could speak directly to anyone that's worried about AI, nuclear threats, or the collapse of modern society, what would your Outer Lands version of a pep talk be?
Well, that's funny because the people in Outer Lands would say, "Get the hell out and start over." They would say, "You got time right now to escape and make your safe haven, to be like the Amish, to go find your safe world and start again." That's what the Outer Lands people would say. But I say that I think that AI, we don't yet have any idea what's going to happen. And I think we ultimately instantaneously fear the unknown.
Hmm.
But we've always had these epochs of technology that have been scary to people, be it, television is going to destroy films. The film camera is going to destroy plays. All these things that we're scared of having new technologies changing what the old is. We always adapt. We always find a way. We always find a way to make it work for us. And I think we're not yet ready to decide if this is a horrible situation or not. But the fact that we are thinking about it is probably a good sign to keep us on track. And I think human beings will find their way to use a new technology to their benefit. They always seem to. So, two points of view: run
Yep.
and hide and start over. Think about what Outer Lands story might tell you about an alternate way to approach the coming future, or get optimistic, embrace it, and figure out how to roll with the punch.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. I love it. Now, which character in Outer Lands do you think secretly deserves their own spinoff? One you
Mm,
haven't told anybody about yet.
I already know, and I didn't know until I finished the book, but I
Oh, you.
know
Oh,
that
nice. How did you figure that out? Oh man.
I didn't know until I finished the book, but I was
Nice.
looking at the last pages, and I was seeing the last pages come through, and I saw the image of Celine heroically on the bow of that pirate ship, and I said, "Damn, she's got a story after this.
Mm,
She's got a story. She has this great arc of having a pirate for a father that and spun her into this kind of dark criminal world, and now she's captaining her own pirate ship. She's sort of like taking the mantle from her father, and you can see that this woman is going to do something great with that, and the respect that she's earned from those pirates. What world is she going to have now that she knows the secrets of Atlantis and how to master them. What is her world going to be, and what is she going to do as a character? I think is very exciting. And I've already, I haven't thought what that story is going to be, but I know there's a story there, and I probably will find a way to explore it in the future. But you can see that she's going someplace, because she did not start off to be a main character in my mind, but she grew on me. And just how cool she was, how capable she is, what a badass she is, how funny she is, all that stuff. I was like, yeah, this woman's quite the interesting character, and she deserves her own spinoff. So
I love it. Now, what's the hardest creative challenge Outer Lands forced you into? Something that genuinely scared you as a writer?
I think one thing that was a little bit scary was whether or not I was tipping my hand too much to the twists. If the audience was going to be onto it too quick, if by giving them these clues, these little Easter eggs. Now, if you go back and read the book again and you look carefully in those pages, you will see lots of little clues in the background. It's Where's Waldo. You can find little interesting pieces of technology hidden in the pages that will start to point you toward it. But my gamble was that most people will read and won't be looking too hard at all the images, won't be studying those pictures too in depth. And it's sort of like The Sixth Sense. Like, remember when you watched The Sixth Sense the first time? The little boy says the dead people don't know they're dead. I mean, if you were paying attention, he just told you the secret right there, and you missed it. And so I think you can go back and read Outer Lands and be like, oh, he told me what was up right here. Like, I can see all this. It's in the pages. The clues are hidden right there in the pages. So that was really fun, but it was a gamble. And I was considering not doing it, but David and I was like, let's just go for it. Like, this is something fun for people to talk about, for them to explore. The book itself is like a little bit of a puzzle in that way. You can find things and see little clues. And I thought that's pretty darn cool. So let's do it. So creatively, it was about trying to find the balance, not giving too much away, having things secret, having things kind of hidden in the background, seeing what people would catch, what they wouldn't. That was one of the creative challenges, I think, of actually creating the book.
Oh man, I dig it. See, folks, you hear this? This guy is. Aren't you not intrigued right now? I got my man worked on this. He put his passion in. Says it's going to be a fun book to read. He got everything we want to read right now. I mean, and now, how many pages is this bad boy?
I think it's about 130.
Ooh,
about 130. Yeah.
Nice. You see, it's a nice girthy book, nice stocking stuffer. Come on, you know what it is. So all you gotta do again, scan that QR code up on the corner of the screen. If you see, take you right to the Amazon page. Thank me later, because you're gonna be like, wow, you're right. This is a fantastic book. You already saw the art. All right. If you want to see it again, rewind the show. That's what you need to do right now, or go visit the Comixology page right now and pick it up. Now, Matt, are you doing anything next year? What's going on, like convention wise? Are we gonna get to see you, shake your hand, get some signed copies of these books? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be out, but we're gonna go, like, Comixology obviously has the digital version. We're gonna be seeking a print publisher as well, which is the same thing with Eden. Like, Eden came out in digital, then it comes out in print. So if we time it right, maybe we get the print out at Comic-Con next year. I was at WonderCon this year for a digital release, because we released right around the WonderCon. But I'll come out and sign some copies, and I think we gave away some posters too. If you take a quick look at that cover, you'll realize the cover art is by Jock, and Jock, as you know, fantastic artist, world-renowned artist for doing like some of the most incredible covers.
Yeah,
that Batman Joker cover, is incredible. And so he did our cover, and I'd met him through Will, kind of told him what the idea was, asked him if he'd be down, knowing that it's probably a no. Guy's very busy with all these great covers, but I think he was inspired, this mashup of the old and new. It's a really cool, it's like that old World War II idea where the soldiers would stick their machine guns in the ground and put the helmet on it. But obviously the helmet here is that's an old Spartan helmet. And like an AK-47. It's a pretty cool mock-up there. When you really look at what that image is, at first you just see colors and image and design, and you see somewhat of a helmet, but you don't really get it until you really look at it. And I think that's what's cool about the cover. It's kind of like our book. It's like, at first you don't quite know what it is. You got to look at it a little more closely, study it, until you start to see what really this cover is. And I think it's kind of a brilliant image.
That would have been wild. Those were the kind of helmets that our soldiers wore during those type of wars. Imagine somebody with that helmet coming at you with an M16. What the hell is going on, yo? Oh yeah, well, god damn. I'm very intrigued. I can't wait to dig in. Thanks to Pan for hooking me up with the digicopy too. I've been looking through it now. I got to sit down and read. And because again, you definitely got me like hooked. Here's the type of shit right up my lane. Tech, no tech, scare the shit out of us with it. Let us know why the evils and the goods. I mean, there's a balance, man. People don't get it. Tech ain't all evil.
Yeah, that's right. It's a cool mashup. Sort of sci-fantasy is kind of the way I'd say it. Sort of sword and sandals meets a sci-fi. It's a lot of fun. It's a nice fun mashup.
I dig it. All right, so this is what it is, man. I really do appreciate your time, man. So again, listen, folks, this is all you gotta do right here. You see him on the socials, the Matthew Arnold right there. That's his John. Show him some love on that. I've been sharing the links. They're also in the show notes. You got the Comixology link. That's the one right up above. But go ahead, go straight to Amazon. I mean, one and the same at the end of the day, but just go ahead. Get them books right now. That go through his library, check out Eden, to check out everything. And somebody asks, is like, are any of your short films out now that were accessible?
Yeah, well, Siberia is a TV show I did for NBC. That's out. You can find that. Emerald City, you can find that. And this Eden is in development at Fox. So we're thinking it may be greenlit as a TV show coming out. And I'm sure we'll do some sort of adaptation for Outer Lands eventually. We're just starting that process now, meeting with sort of possible producing partners that we might want to take it up with. So yeah, it's good to watch. It's good to sometimes see how these books might translate into the screen. So I'm interested to see that.
So basically what I'm hearing here is 2026, watch out because the Honorverse is coming through hard, huh?
I love it. Thanks, Al.
Yeah, my people, you got to give it up one more time to our man right here, Matthew Arnold, a creator who is not scared to throw ancient warriors, modern weapons, nuclear anxiety, and all your childhood nostalgia into a cosmic blender and hit puree. You feel me? So Ireland is out now. So you go get it right now. Go get a Comixology Digi. You know what I mean? You heard the print is going to be coming soon, but get them digis. I'm telling you, send them as an email. People are going to love you for this, right? Demand that your friends read this. Tell your mom it's an educational, for support to your addiction. Tell mommy, hey, you know what I mean? For those nerds that, that need your mom to buy you stuff, ask her right there. Tell her it's for educational purposes. It's historical meets tech. Meets awesomeness. Now, support creators or pushing boundaries like my man Matt right here. Support indie comics, all right? And as always, you know what it is. Please, it's the big web by Support Comic Crusaders. Hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications. Hasta la próxima, mi gente. Wepa! Thank you for listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. If you like the content, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, please visit comiccrusaders.shop and our extended podcast family over at undercovercapes.com. And also, make sure to download the Comic Crusaders app on the Google Play Store today.